Hi, this is Angel, and you're watching Twincast. On this channel, we discuss horror in video games and movies, and today I wanted to talk about Under the Shadow in light of the events happening in Iran. Please stay tuned to the end of the video where I'll update you guys on what I know. Under the Shadow is a British-produced psychological horror film that is told in Farsi. It was originally released during the 2016 Sundance Film Festival and is available for streaming on Netflix. Under the Shadow takes place in Tehran during the Iran-Iraq War in the 1980s. The film follows a former medical student. She is banned from her studies for her involvement in student protests. The story begins when Shidet's husband is called into military service and has to leave Shidet and their daughter Dorsa behind. One day, a missile strikes their apartment building. The characters believe a jinn was attached to the missile. A jinn is a supernatural creature that stems from Arabic and Islamic mythology. When a jinn steals something from someone, they are said to haunt the owner of the object, and the only way to stop the haunting is for the owner to retrieve what was stolen from them. Although most have fled the city because of the war, Shidet and Dorsa linger longer. Dorsa does not want to leave her missing doll, which she believes was taken by the jinn. However, the longer Shidet remains in the war zone, the more her sanity unravels from PTSD. I especially like the imagery of Shidet taping the cracks in her window. In dream symbolism, homes often represent the state of our well-being, and I think this imagery really captures Shidet's attempts to keep herself together. There are scenes in the movie that clearly demonstrate gender oppression. Shidet owns a VHS player, which is illegal during this time, as well as the workout content she is consuming. There's a point in the film where Shidet frantically runs out of her apartment in fear, and she is caught not wearing a hijab, which is the only concern the police have when she runs into them. By the end of the film, Shidet does manage to escape with her daughter. She has to leave a part of herself behind. This is a medical textbook, which is incredibly meaningful to her. It had been gifted to her by her deceased mother, and it is a representation of what could have been had she been able to finish her studies. The ending indicates that she and her daughter will continue to be haunted, and I do believe that this symbolizes the trauma of their condition. Under the Shadow, in my mind, is a story about living under oppression, and the jinn itself represents gender oppression. I believe this is a political film masked as a psychological horror. The director is Iranian-born, and the story for Under the Shadow came about from a conversation with his mother. She blames herself for projecting her fears and anxieties onto him and his brother. The story reminds me of the Japanese horror film Dark Water and the Australian horror film The Babadook, in that it explores maternal angst and parents projecting their anxieties onto their children. Let's talk about what's happening in Iran. In early September, 22-year-old Mahsaamini was traveling with her brother to visit relatives in Tehran. As soon as she got off the subway, she was dragged into a van by the religious morality police because she was wearing her hijab too loosely. Police told her brother that they were taking his sister to a briefing class. This was not the case. Mahsa was beaten, then rushed to the hospital. The police prevented her brother from seeing her because they did not want her injuries to be documented. Mahsa had died from her injuries. The police took video footage of Mahsa collapsing and reported to the media that she had a heart condition. This was a lie. In the wake of Mahsa's death, protests erupted in Iran and around the world. Since then, it has evolved into a revolution. For 43 years, Iran has been under the Islamic Republic regime, and this is a dictatorship. The people of Iran want the regime out. Gen Z is doing their best to fabricate their own weapons and barricades and lead this revolution. Under the laws of this dictatorship, women cannot wear what they want, they cannot sing, dance, or cut their hair. So you may have seen in protest demonstrations and trending TikTok videos, women all over the world cutting their hair. These are only some of the ways that women experience oppression in Iran. These oppressors send their daughters overseas to live their best lives while only oppressing the women in Iran. News outlets were not covering this issue to the extent that it deserved until social media hashtags started gaining momentum. A lot of information came through TikTok, and the government of Iran has cut off internet access to its civilians shortly after protests began. Prior to that, numerous TikTok content creators had been kidnapped by the police and haven't been heard from since. Although it has been reported that just under 200 people have died since the protests began, it is believed that this is severely underreported. Police are beating and killing civilians all over the country. The regime has attacked Evin prison, which houses journalists, activists, artists, and anyone that that disagrees with the regime or have documented the events happening in Iran. The regime has been attacking people of Iran with batons, electronic shockers, plastic, rubber, and real bullets. They have shot at university students. Reports include individuals dying from injuries from being shot upwards to 24 times by plastic bullets. Girls as young as 11 years old have been detained. Protests in cities with ethnic minorities below the poverty line are being shot at without mercy. These civilians that are protesting in these cities are as young as 12 years old. There are countless stories of tragic deaths, but here is one. A 16-year-old girl went missing for 10 days following a protest. When her family found her body, her nose was smashed, her skull was broken. Police reported that she had fallen, but the truth is she was raped, beaten, and murdered. The body was confiscated by police so the world wouldn't see what had happened, and they forced the girl's uncle to appear in a video to tell the world this didn't happen. Other family members have been imprisoned to ensure silence. Because of this story, mothers are keeping the corpses of their children that have died in protest within their homes in fear of the police confiscating them. Unfortunately, the best thing that we can do right now is to keep this topic trending. Doing so will put pressure on other countries to help. This is a fight against terrorism, genocide, murder, rape, and the oppression of human rights. Iranian women represent all of us. They range from white skin, blue eyes, to brown skin, to black skin. If you have stayed to the end of this video, I want to thank you for your time and attention to this matter, and we'll catch you guys soon.
میهن آبادی برای دختری که آرزو داشت پسر بود برای زن زندگی آزادی